I want to become a voice actor. So, I'm learning Chinese, I'm learning to draw and animate. Why not throw a third project on top of all of that? You know, aside from also working full-time and so on. What's the worst that could happen? Me overburdening myself with attempting new things aside, let's talk about voice acting. Growing up, my high school days were the heyday of the phenomenon known as the abridged series, where content creators would edit together short, that is to say, abridged episodes of anime, completely redoing the voice acting, dialogue, and sometimes even the plot, usually bending it more towards comedy. I was always excited to see the latest episode of Little Karibo's Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged or Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Along with the Abridged series, there were also animations. Things like Rejected by Don Hertzfeld, Igoraptor's Awesome series, my favourite being Awesome Center, and Film Cow's entire backlog, like the famous Charlie the Unicorn series, which only recently got its amazing finale a short while before I started writing this script. My friends and I would quote all this and more to each other endlessly. My spoon is too big. My voice gives me super strength. Carl, that kills people. And so on and so forth. Needless to say, we all got fairly good at recreating the voices, and me especially. I mean, I was fairly awkward in high school and not particularly socially adept, so I latched pretty keenly onto the things I could do that did make people laugh. I developed the skill pretty well and quite frequently got compliments for my vocal ability. Then, as we all do, we grow up, graduate school, and move on to other things. I didn't necessarily lose the skill though, but underutilization made it unpolished. I mean, did you hear those earlier impressions? I did and do still frequently put voices on when telling people stories or saying something silly, sometimes when I'm embarrassed, and so on. I just enjoy it. Doing voices is fun. Sometime during my development into an adult, which also coincided with my growing love of animation, see my last episode, a thought formed in my mind. Why don't I try voice acting? I mean, by this point I was employed, but I didn't necessarily want to be a full-on professional. I just thought it would be fun to try out. These thoughts coalesced when at a specific convention an English-speaking voice actor, Amy Smith, was attending. She wasn't doing anything super huge. She had at that point voiced a few characters in games, some stuff in animations, voiceovers in ads, and other work. Her career was growing steadily. But what was super cool about her was that she was actually a teacher. Much like me, she was working full-time, if I recall correctly. This was years ago at this point, and I have no intention to misrepresent her. And she had just started doing it. At these conventions, you see a lot of industry professionals from around the world, people that have played major characters in film, games, and animation, but she was by far the most inspiring, and she was really open with her journey and freely giving out advice. She must have been a wonderful teacher. I furiously took notes and came home inspired. I started recording an audiobook for practice, and, say it with me, I stopped. Damn it. Not again. Honestly, I think the audiobook was the wrong way to go, and recording an audiobook is a lot more effort than I initially realized. Life caught up with me, I focused on work, and the dream of becoming a voice actor faded into the back of my mind to haunt me as another spectre of regret. Well, it's time to raise the spectre from its grave. As Amy said, you don't need much to get started. Depending on your level, you just need a halfway decent mic, check, and some audio recording software, double check. And hey, she even used Audacity like I do. Then all you need to do is... Wait, hang on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. If I'm starting a new project, you know what I need. A plan. So, following the notes that I took years ago, that I thankfully found, I'm going to split this into two steps. The preparation and the much more not in my control, actual voice acting. Then, reliant on how that second step goes, I'll have a wavy incorporeal third section as a placeholder for the future. So, preparation. I'm way out of practice, and even if I wasn't, I would still need practice. Right out of my notes, I need to determine my vocal range. It's all good to be able to hit a stupidly sounding high voice, but if you can't sustain it, hit it consistently, and most importantly, be able to talk with a range and emotion that you are normally able to when using it, it's not a voice that can really be used. I tend to be on the lower side, but I'll see how I fare. A recommendation that Amy had was to use impressions as a springboard. You won't be able to get many jobs impersonating Schwarzenegger, Connery, Yoda, or Homer, but if you're able to impersonate them convincingly, you can utilize that sort of vocal control to develop your own voices. I've always wanted to do impressions of two characters, Winnie the Pooh and Kronk. That is to say, Patrick Warburton, who also voices Joe Swanson from Family Guy, so I'll add those two as a sub-goal. Maybe I'll polish some of my older impressions.
I already do an alright Sean Connery, or at least my grandma thinks so.
And my Stewie Griffin impersonation used to be better than what I'm doing now.
I wonder what other voices I can revive. I won't turn impression revivals into goals, but it'll be fun to get that. Can you classify it as a skill set? Well, whatever you call it, it'll be fun to get it back. Moving on from impressions, by this point my vocal range should be fairly well established. The impressions may not be polished by then, but I should have gotten a good feel for my range at this point. And I'll pick some scenes with characters that I think fit that range, and try dubbing them myself. To really stretch myself, I'll also try doing reaction voices, the "ya," "oofed," "gah," that you sometimes overlook, but are definitely omnipresent in most voice roles, in games and anime at least. I'll try my best to make these voices fit, while also sounding somewhat original. It may be tempting to just try and imitate what the original voice actors have done, but I can't imitate forever. Though I'm not going to go as crazy as 4Kids used to with some of their more wild voice choices.
That's right, W.A.N.T! My mommy says I'm really strong!
Another key thing, once again from my Amy notes, is to make sure I create emotional believability. It's all well and good to have the right voice for something, but if I sound like a robot, unable to emote with that voice, then anything I voice will sound flat. With my scenes dubbed, I'll pick my favorites and create a sort of demo reel, and with that complete, I'll consider my training done. Now, I actually have to find something to voice act, and this is where things get dicey. There were several places that Amy mentioned in her talk that I took notes on. A couple of websites, a few subreddits, all well and good. It was also, however, over 3 years ago, so there may be new and better places to find work. I'll use the places she mentioned as a jump-off point, but I'll have to go wherever the wind takes me. The real question is, though, will anyone have me? This is where the goal as a whole is difficult. I can create my demo, find my voices, do all the prep, but in the end, even if I apply for some free roles to voice, there's no guarantee I'll be accepted, which will admittedly suck, but what can you do? I'm going to ambitiously try for 5 roles, and I think I'll do it via my original gaming alias, which I teased in the first video, but I'm not revealing it yet. So I'll start voice acting under that identity, building a backlog, and if all goes well, I'll reveal it in the next video. Unfortunately, there's not much I can plan for that second step, but I guess that pretty much sums it up. If by the second voice acting video rolls around and I'm flat out of luck, I guess I can swerve it into voicing my own animations or retrying that audiobook. Worst comes to worst, at a minimum, I should have improved how I sound in my videos, either with my expressiveness or quality of voice. I've got to find that silver lining. But for now, we've at least got some solid goals for step 1, so let's smart goalify them. Alright, first the impressions. Every week for 10 weeks I will record a 20-second impression of both Winnie the Pooh and Patrick Warburton. Oh boy, it's going to be cringe, but hopefully as I practice you'll be able to see the improvement. Or not, and it will be really awful. Then vocal range. I want to dub over 15 different character-focused clips in 14 weeks. This will be a focus on the voice part, not the lip syncing or any of that extraneous stuff. I don't want to spend too much time on the editing of these clips. At most, I'll try to find the background music, but if they awkwardly cut to silence whenever I voice a line, so be it. I reckon I'll just stick with those two for now. It gives me plenty to work towards and deliverables to achieve. terrible, cringe-worthy deliverables. I guess I'll call it a video here. A shorter one this time, but just because I don't know what to write doesn't mean I've got nothing to do. Once again, a big shout out to Amy Smith. I'll link her website in the description, and if you're ever at a convention where she's giving a talk, I highly recommend going to see her. I'll be starting one final major project in the next video, so subscribe to catch what it's going to be. Which characters do you think I should try dubbing, and what tips do you have? Have any of you done any voice acting yourselves? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for joining me on the start of another journey, because remember, it's we attempt new things, not I attempt new things. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fruitful day.